pledge, please.
I'm ready.
I believe allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. This is Monday, March 1st. If you have any questions, comments, or business with us, come up to this microphone here, tell us your name and your address, and we'll hear from you. I'll call the roll, please.
Cedar.
Here.
Kinsfater.
Here.
Kleeman.
Here.
Koopa is absent. Laporte.
Here.
McCartney.
Here.
Volt.
Here. Motion to excuse member Kufa. Support that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
All right, number 4, consent agenda. A, City Council minutes of February 15, 2021, regular and closed meetings, recommendation approved. And B is the Zoning Board of Appeals minutes of September 16, 2020 meeting, recommendation received.
Motion approved, A and B as presented, Your Honor.
Support.
Motion made, supported. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a public hearing under number 5 tonight for the Woodland Estates private road acquisition and special assessment. We'll open a public hearing. Do you want to say a couple words, and then we'll let the public have the floor?
Sure, I can do so. Our public hearing, the topic is the acquisition of the roads within Woodland Estates Condominium Development Number 2 and a special assessment district. The overall infrastructure project includes road rehabilitation, storm sewer improvements, and street light improvements. The portion that is will be eligible for the cost share between the residents and the city is just the road portion. The sewer, the storm sewer improvements and the street lights is the city's, would be financing those solely. We're proposing a 15-year special assessment. So that means if they don't want to pay it, they can pay it off in 15 years. There's interest. If they don't want to pay it off over 15 years, they can always prepay or pay in full. And at this point, I feel like we should open the public hearing, hear from the public, and then I or the engineer would be happy to answer more questions as they come up.
All right, thank you. Anybody from the public out there have anything on this? Comments, questions, concerns? All right, then I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to number 6. 6A is the resolution 21-8, accept an improvement by special assessment Woodland Estates.
Your Honor, I'd make a motion to approve the resolution to accept the improvements by special assessment for the Woodlands Estates.
Support.
All right, motion's made, support. Questions?
Just a question on the street lighting. Are we going to do LED? Is that what we're going to try to do in there?
Yeah, they would be LED street lighting.
Oh.
Anybody else? All right, call the roll, please.
Kinsfater.
Yes.
Kleeman.
Yes.
Laporte.
Yes.
McCartney.
Yes.
Volt.
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes.
Resolution adopted, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Woodland Estates. Thank you, Mike. B, Resolution 21-9, authorizing installment purchase agreement, vac truck.
Yes, Your Honor, members of council, this proposed resolution would allow the city to enter into an installment purchase agreement with Frederickson Supply as well as North Star Bank to cover the financed portion of the new vac truck, of which we will take delivery in the next 2 weeks. It was an RFP process that North Star submitted the only bid on time. One bank did express interest in submitting a bid, but they were not able to make the deadline. We're doing a $75,000 down payment, which was budgeted in this fiscal year. It's a 5-year term. We do plan on selling this, our current 1998 vac truck, and then we'd be using those proceeds to pay down that debt in advance. Other than that, I worked with our bond counsel, Miller Canfield, who prepared the resolution and the structure of the purchase agreement. Would be happy to answer any other questions that council may have.
Any idea what the resale would be on the truck that we have now?
So we were offered a guaranteed trade value of $20,000, but we had several local communities or entities who expressed interest and, kind of said that, they might be willing to spend a little bit, more than that. So I don't want to put a price on it just yet, but I think it'll be
Well,
north of
minimum of
20.
20?
Yeah, I think minimum of 20 is what we would start asking with, or if we structure it as an auction, perhaps. I'm not sure yet on how that'll be structured exactly.
Make a motion to approve.
Support.
All right, the motion is made and supported to authorize the installment purchase agreement from the Blacktop. Questions?
I don't have any questions, I just got something to say. I mean, I didn't vote for purchasing this because I did not agree with the process, so I'm not going to vote to approve the financing either.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, call the roll, please.
Kleeman,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
McCartney,
Yes.
Volk,
Yes.
Kinsfather,
No.
Cedar.
Yes.
Resolution adopted, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Reports Administration, number 7A. Mr. Rothy, what do you got?
Your Honor, most of last week, my activities were spent preparing these materials for you, finalizing some projects out. I will say we did conduct a bid opening for sewer lining work, both for our North Riverside project as well as the work that we approved last year but was never finished. That bid will be brought to council at our next meeting. Other than that, I was on vacation one of the weeks of the last two, so it's kind of a short period for me.
All right. Any questions or anything from Mr. Rothy?
Oh, I will say also that I have been speaking with DTE, and they are scheduling an inventory flyby, they call it, of all our streetlights, so that way we can get an accurate quotes on what it would cost to convert those to LEDs. So I am working on that.
All right. Anything else? City Attorney, you got anything over there?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
All right. City Departments, anybody? Chief?
If you don't mind, I've stood here before talking about life-saving and solving crimes, but I want to read this email I got from a citizen Friday evening. 2 days ago, my 3 boys and I went walking the trails and played at Gregg Park. My oldest son, 12, had just got a phone and lost it. He came up to me and said his phone is missing. We retraced his steps, looked through the trails, couldn't find it. It was getting dark, and when I pinged his phone, came back to an address on 6th Street. I went to the house, and a very nice woman answered the door, offered help, and told us his phone wasn't there. While talking to her, his phone pinged again on Vine, which made me believe someone had it and was driving around. I didn't know what to do, so I went to the police station. I approached a woman officer outside in her SUV and explained what was happening. Then Officer Schroll approached, offering his help. He took my information and called later, stating he walked through the trails at Gregg Park and didn't see the phone. Mind you, the trails were covered in snow and slushy. And I thought, how kind of him to do that. The next day, my son and I went back to the park to look again and didn't have any luck. Later that day, Officer Schroll called again, gave us other ways to try and locate the phone, and said he searched again and will continue to offer help. Today, while at work, a lady from Creative Tots commented on my post about the missing phone, saying one of her preschoolers found the phone frozen in the ground. It was his. After work, I was waiting for my son to come from practice at the high school, and while waiting, I called the station to find out how to go about getting his phone back. The person I spoke to sent Sergeant Lippa over with his phone. All capitals, I cannot thank your officers enough. I know it's just a phone, but to a preteen who is in virtual school and has been pretty depressed with no normalcy, and then losing his phone, I didn't want him to have in the first place, was a lot. We had a heck of a week, and for what your men and women did for us over such a tedious thing to most of us, but a big thing to my boy and me, we are very appreciative, truly grateful. Thank you for your time. I just thought I would share that.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. And keep up the good work. And tell those preschoolers to keep up the good work, too.
If I knew the name of that 4-year-old, I'd give it to you, but I don't know.
Any other city departments? Any authorities, boards, commissions, committees, council reps? No unfinished business. We'll go to number 9, new business. Approve the engineering and construction services proposed for Woodland Estates street improvements.
You just need a motion, Your Honor?
Do you want to say anything, Ryan?
Yes, just briefly, I know I've mentioned what we proposed over there as far as pulverization of the existing asphalt and placing new asphalt layer, doing storm sewer repairs, sidewalk ramp installations. Looking to fast track this design. As you're aware, we're in the process of designing Goff Street right now. We'd like to bid this project out at the same time as Goff Street so we can get the best price possible. So hopefully we can get this design pretty quick and get it out on the street.
Any questions for Ryan? Thank you.
Yep.
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve engineering and construction services proposed for Woodland Estates street improvements. Support.
All right, motion made, supported, questions? Call a roll, please.
Laporte,
Yes.
McCartney,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Kinsfather,
Yes.
Kleeman,
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes.
approved, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. The approved proposal for 2021 DWR project plan submittal. Mr. Rothi.
Yes, Your Honor. In your packet this evening is a proposal from Fishbeck, the consulting engineer on the city's water plant improvement project. At our special meeting about 2 weeks ago, we talked about the various funding opportunities for this program, and we talked about our identified funding source of choice, which is the state's drinking water revolving fund. There is currently a program in that fund where there's additional grant dollars that have been allocated for principal forgiveness. Right now, the guidance says that we're looking at, an applicant could receive 30% of project costs or $2 million, whichever is less. In our case, that would be, we would max out at that $2 million. The current interest rate on this program too, they're already low to begin with, but they're even lower now in the current climate. And if we were successful fully to receive this funding this fiscal year as part of this application process, the current 20-year interest rate is 1.875%. Any interest below 2% is essentially free money if you consider inflation as a 2% annual rate. What does this proposal do? Well, again, the first step was to submit a letter of intent stating our intent to apply. That was something I could accomplish administratively, which I did before the deadline in early January. The next step is to prepare a project plan. And again, this is all federal pass-through money that is given to the state to administer these programs. So because of that, they like to see, the engineers put thought into, here's the different alternatives. This is why this course of action is the best course. This is why this is the loan amount we're asking for. And again, so that project plan, though, has to be created. It has to have certain things that were not done as part of the earlier study that Fishbeck did. I can say that the city has successfully applied for and having to pay for these project plan studies in the past with our clean water revolving fund loans and our sewer system when we constructed the tanks. I know AEW assisted us with an SRF project in 2012 that was sanitary sewer collection improvements. This is the process. You may have saw in the Voice article just 3 weeks ago, Marysville approved. They had already done engineering studies, and then they had to turn around and do engineering studies for the project plan components. They're throwing their hat in the ring, trying to get after these low interest rates, trying to get after these grant interest, these grant dollars. If there was a better program with a better interest rate that didn't cost this money, I would give it to you, I would tell you, but this is the process, so this is what it is, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, and I'm seeking a motion to approve the project plan submittal proposal.
Well, in order to discuss it, I'll make a motion to approve it.
All right.
I'll support it.
All right, motion made, supported, questions?
Yes. So you mentioned in your presentation that by moving forward with these services, there might be a different proposal submitted to for this work based on different. Am I understanding you right? The original plan and study that we received at our last meeting may not be the final project?
No, basically what this is it's us explaining what we thought all along is what we want to do. So it's going to be looking at, cost and benefit analysis of what if we did nothing, what if we do the improvements as the study recommends, what if we, instead of, expanding, production capacity, what if we hired additional staff, what does that look like? So it's all those kinds of scenarios.
Well, that was a very detailed study that was done.
Yeah.
And my concern about the comment was that was that an exercise, or is that something that we're going to submit to Eagle for approval based on that study, or is there going to be changes based on?
No, we are going to be, this project right now, this plan is going to take all the findings and recommendations in that original study and advance all of them. Now, some of those items, again, the state might not consider us for funding, some of like the expansion elements, but, the bulk of the items, 100% meet their normal wheelhouse on the projects they fund. But we're going to ask for everything.
Anybody else? Questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Laporte,
Yes.
McCartney,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Kinsfater,
Yes.
Kleeman,
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes.
carried, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. We'll go to C. Review the Transportation Assessment Management Plan Report.
Sure, I'll introduce this part of our agenda this evening. One of the things that I really want to get in the habit of doing here is having a solid, data-driven approach to asset management, looking at a multi-year timeline, no more, shooting from the hip style, fixing things. So I really just want to get organized. We have, excluding to 2021 year, we have 6 more years of our road millage left, and it was really about, we know this money's coming in, we know every year roads become even more costly to fix, so let's look at the current state of our road network, which AEW did a PASER analysis, and then let's create an asset management plan and kind of project out, here's the streets we want to fix each year for the next 6 years with the available funds we have, both from Act 51 and our road millage. We basically have 2 big scenarios, a pay-as-you-go or an approach for bonding. So if we bonded, ahead of time, we could lock in, maybe bid a 2-year contract out, we'll get those prices held constant, be able to do more reconstruction level projects versus resurfacing. So again, that's the intent. And the last thing before I turn it over to Ryan, the other reason why we're doing an asset management plan is the state gives you dollars for your major street network and your local street network. The emphasis is on maintaining and improving your major street network. You get a lot more dollars per mile. And typically, the state doesn't like you to use major street dollars and put them into your local street fund to spend on local street projects. However, if you submit an asset management plan with the state, which again is not binding, it's not saying I'm committing to fix street XYZ in years 1, 2, and 3, it's just here's our generic plan, the state will allow you to actually transfer money from your major street fund into your local street fund, essentially with no limit on what the size of that transfer could be like there normally is. So again, that was kind of my rationale for hiring AEW to come up with this plan. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Ryan Kern, who worked on the study, and he'll present the findings for you.
All right, good evening again, everyone. So we were tasked with doing the evaluation of all the streets in the city here back in October, and we've now finished putting the transportation asset management plan together. So just here tonight to briefly review the plan that we've put together before we get that approved and send that over to the state for their approval. So we evaluated all the streets in the city. There's 29.5 miles of streets that are owned and maintained by the city. There's three streets in the city that are not under the city's jurisdiction. Range and Yankee roads are under the jurisdiction of the county, and then M29 obviously with MDOT. We rated the surface condition of all the city streets. We utilized RoadSoft GIS software, which was developed by the local technical assistance program up at Michigan Technological University to complete the evaluation. We used the PASER evaluation, which stands for Pavement Surface Evaluation Rating. That was developed by the University of Wisconsin, and that's basically been adopted by MDOT as their typical process of evaluating streets. So we've evaluated all the streets and gave it a rating of 1 through 10. 1 is basically a street that has completely failed, to a 10, which is a new or excellent street. So following the evaluation, we've calculated the average overall PASER rating of the city's street network, and in October of 2020, it was rated at 3.789. So you're at roughly at just below fair. You're just into the poor category. 2 years ago, we evaluated the streets, and they were an average rating was 4.49, and in 2015, when we first did the evaluation, it was at an even 4. Just as in summary, 14% of the streets were rated good, 8 through 10. 20% of the streets were rated fair, 5 to 7. And 66%, 2/3 of the streets, rated 1 through 4 in the poor category. For those good rated streets, typically we would, currently, there's no work that needs to be done to those streets, but in the near future, you'd want to do some preventative maintenance to keep those streets in good condition, whether that be joint crack sealing. The fair rated streets, we would want to look at doing either some preventative maintenance again, or doing some concrete repairs on the concrete streets, or doing some resurfacing and mill and fill jobs on some of the asphalt streets before they go down to a poor rated street. By the time it gets to a poor rated street, it's going to cost a lot more money. But unfortunately, a lot of the streets are in the poor category, to where at this point they're going to need either a complete reconstruction, asphalt pulverization, or they may be able to be milled and filled. We looked at the different types of streets that you have and looked at the Paisley rating based on the surface. Most of your streets are asphalt streets. Majority of them have concrete curb and gutter with enclosed drainage. Some have shoulders with open drainage ditches. But over 80% of your streets are asphalt streets, and asphalt streets typically have a design life of 15 to 25 years. Only 8% of your streets are concrete. They're primarily major streets with enclosed drainage systems, and concrete streets usually last 35 to 40 years. You have about 8% of gravel streets, which require regular routine maintenance, and then you do have one subdivision with brick streets. So looking at the average Paisley rating by surface type, the brick street is in good condition. Your concrete streets are in a little better condition at 4, and the fair on the borderline of fair to poor, with your asphalt streets in the poor category at 3.7. Gravel streets are not rated through the Paisley system just because they constantly need routine maintenance. It's kind of difficult to rate those because that could change by week as far as the condition of those streets. We also looked at the average Paisley rating by road type, whether it be major or local. You have roughly 20 miles of local streets and just over 9 miles of major streets. And your major streets are in a little better condition, which they should be, 3.709. Local streets at 3.259. This just basically shows a deterioration curve of a typical asphalt street. As I said, the design life of an asphalt street is about 15 to 25 years. As it gets to about 15 years, you can see on this graph here that at that point, most likely it's going to be at about a 4 rating. So at that point, it's going to start falling into the poor category. So this graph basically shows that prior to it reaching that level to a 4, you want to try to do some preventative maintenance to try to extend that design life and try to be more cost effective. If it gets below a 4, the costs go up substantially as far as between doing a resurfacing or doing preventative maintenance versus concrete reconstruct. In preparing the transportation asset management plan, some goals that are to be reached, the goal is to achieve having your streets in good or fair condition. So we want to try to come up with a specified period of time where we want to have all the streets in good to fair condition. We want to do a mix of fixes. We don't want to just go and reconstruct all the streets that are currently in poor condition. We would never catch up. We want to address the fair rated streets as well and do some resurfacing as well as doing preventative maintenance. And preventative maintenance is very cheap. And again, try to extend the design life as much as possible. We want to develop an annual street capital improvement program, and currently in the condition that the streets are in right now, if we were to address every street and get it to good condition, it would cost about $25 to $30 million in today's dollars. The different types of road improvements that would be proposed for future projects: complete reconstruction. Currently that's about $1 million to $1.25 million per lane mile. You'd be looking at the complete removal of the existing roadway, putting a new aggregate base, new pavement cross-section, new storm drainage facilities. Pretty much everything's new. No new driveway approaches, sidewalk ramps to ADA compliance. Asphalt resurfacing is about $250,000 to $350,000 per lane mile, where we would mill and resurface the top layer of asphalt and complete any underlying base repairs, complete some drainage improvements as necessary, and replace defective concrete curb and gutter where necessary. Concrete pavement repairs, which would be replacing defective panels of concrete, about $250,000 to $400,000 per lane mile, depending on how much needs to be done. We would also adjust and reconstruct failing drainage structures as part of that. And then preventative maintenance, joint and crack sealing is about $10,000 to $25,000 per lane mile, where we would seal all the cracks and joints. It's recommended that that's done about every 3 to 5 years in order to extend the life cycle of the pavement. So why do we develop a transportation asset management plan? As Warren had mentioned, state of Michigan is encouraging communities to put a transportation asset management plan together. Recently, they've made it mandatory now that communities with 100 miles or more of streets do have to complete a transportation asset management plan and send it into the state for approval. I can see in the near future that they'll probably make the smaller communities do that as well in the future, but right now, it's not recommended. But as Warren had said, it does allow communities, right now you can transfer up to 50% of your major road funds to your local road fund. With the approval of an asset management plan, you can then transfer additional major road funds into your local road system. The asset management plan allows you to have a better understanding of the current condition of the roadway network and develop short and long-term capital improvement planning. Allows you to review your underground utilities. If we're going to be doing reconstructions, we want to look at the underground utilities as well and address any problems with the underground utilities at the same time. Currently, as far as funding for roads, right now in the city of St. Clair, there's 2 funding mechanisms, basically. The Act 51 gas taxes, you're getting money from the state, but those funds not only address capital improvement projects, but those are also funding your road maintenance, your plowing, your salting, your street sweeping, any equipment costs, labor costs. That gets eaten up pretty quickly. Right now, roughly about $300,000 per year is left over to do any capital improvement projects. And then you have your street millage, which generates about $530,000 per year for street improvements, and you have 6 years remaining in that street millage. So right now, about $830,000 per year is allocated for street improvements. We put together a capital improvement plan, a 6-year plan, and that was included in the draft asset management plan. The streets that we've selected aren't set in stone. I mean, those could be changed at any time, depending upon changes with the conditions of the streets. We've tried to spread the work out evenly throughout the city as much as possible, try to do the same amount of work in each ward of the city. And it's recommended to reevaluate the streets every 3 to 5 years just to get a better understanding of the changing conditions of the streets. For 2021, we have Goff Street from Oak to Palmer that's currently in design, looking to bid that out here in a few weeks. And then we're also looking at $300,000 of resurfacing of streets as well this year. We looked at a couple different scenarios with the capital improvement plan. First, we looked at what if the city did absolutely nothing with the streets? What would the PASER rating be, or what's it predicted to be in the 6th year? And it would decrease to a 2.58. At your current funding level and doing preventative maintenance, it would increase a little bit. It would increase to about 4.45. We also looked at doing a $3 million bond and doing 2 years worth of reconstruction projects at $3 million and then doing $300,000 annually for asphalt resurfacing projects. That also comes out to a 4.45 after 6 years. I did look at doing, if you did a $6 million bond just to look at it and doubled the amount there, it would increase your PASER rating to about a 5 after 6 years. There are some other potential funding sources that we're always looking at. There is the federal aid assistance. Several of your major streets are eligible for federal aid assistance, but you're competing with all the other communities here in St. Clair County for the pot of money that the county does get for federal aid assistance. We do have a project coming up next year on Fredmore Highway from Kearney to 15th Street. It's only one block, but it seems like St. Clair County, they try to spread the work out there too, so the projects aren't very big. But we do have that coming up next year. 81.85% of the construction cost is covered by federal aid assistance. There are a couple Transportation Economic Development Fund grant opportunities that are out there. We recently submitted a grant in the Category A for economic stimulus of new development for potential resurfacing of Kearney Drive with the new industrial development that's coming into town here in the north end of town. So we're hopeful maybe we can get some assistance with that and getting Kearney Drive resurfaced. Last week, a call for projects came out for Category B, which is for road improvements in small cities and villages with a population less than 10,000. There's $250,000 available with a match of $250,000. We did apply for that last year. We tried to get some money for Goff Street from that last year, but weren't successful on that. A lot of communities applying for that. I'm not sure how much is available this year in that, but obviously we'll apply for that again for the city here this year too, and that comes out annually. And obviously there's special assessment districts as a potential, but in conclusion, again, 2/3 of the streets are in poor condition. The city obviously should continue with their annual road improvement program, addressing as many streets as possible with the available funding, utilizing a mix of fixes. It's obvious Act 51 funding is not enough to fund long-term capital improvements to the roadway infrastructure. You're not the only city. That's the same pretty much everywhere here in the state of Michigan. Every city's struggling to be able to keep up with their road network. If no action is taken on fairly rated streets, the streets will quickly deteriorate, become rated poor, and will cost a lot more. And we're always continuing to monitor for potential grant opportunities, and hopefully some more, maybe some other grant opportunities will come out there. There was word today that there might be some COVID-19 relief highway infrastructure funds that might come available too. We'll keep an eye on that, see if anything happens with that. But that basically, that's the state of the roads here in St. Clair as they are today, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
All right, council, do you have any questions for Ryan?
Ryan, the scrap tire grants that we were getting, is there any of that out there anymore? Or?
I haven't seen any in a while, but I can take a look into that and see if there's anything coming up with that.
'Cause we did a few roads with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I remember we're back.
Very well.
I think they
Yeah.
most of them
Mine should sell it very well.
Okay,
saved us a lot of money.
yeah, I'll look into that.
So, I have more of a comment before a question. We'll probably never see money as inexpensive as it is today.
Right,
Borrowed money, I'm talking.
right.
And I know you're not in the financial world, but I think someone in the audience is. But, so why wouldn't a city, a municipality look at their projects, look at the cost of money today and the incoming millages that we have with the increase? The other thing that we haven't taken into consideration is that property values are increasing every year, so which increases the tax revenue. Why wouldn't we go out and fund a 6-year program ahead of schedule and get these roads, not just the poor roads, but the moderately rated roads, and accelerate our road program?
Yeah, you could definitely do
I mean,
that.
that's a question I've always had in the back of my mind. I mean, it seems like in the process that we're going through right now, by the time we get to the end of the next 6 years, which our millage expires,
Right.
we're just going to be starting all over again. I mean,
Right.
we're never going to catch up with what we have to do and what the citizens of our community expect us to do. So I always ask myself, why isn't council directing administration to look at what that would cost us in the long run with this almost free money to us?
Right. No, it's definitely something to look at. I know we were looking at bonding.
This was
as an
step
option.
one. And
Yeah.
I've heard from the plurality of council that we want you to look at this more.
Right.
So this was step one, figure out where the roads are rated, kind of look at the costs, what can we do, get some scenarios in place. But, unless you guys tell me don't come back with more information, I was planning on coming back with here's our road millage, here's how we expect it to grow each year, here's Act 51 money we're projecting, what can we actually afford? To me, that's the next step.
And then my next question is, by the next meeting, I'd like to know how many times our crack sealer was out in 2020 to do street repairs and do general maintenance. Because we spend a lot of money on that, and that does really help with the maintenance program on the streets that we can continue to save and work on. And I'd just like to know how much it was utilized in 2020 and what the plan is for 21.
Sure.
Thanks,
Great.
Ryan. That was
Yeah.
a great job.
Anybody else for Ryan?
I'll just mention one other thing too, with COVID-19 too, we've been watching the Act 51 funding too. Obviously it's based on gas taxes, and earlier in 2020, people weren't driving too much. We did notice that starting in March and April of last year, we noticed there was about a 30% decrease in the gas taxes that were being collected. So we're kind of watching that too, whether there'll be a little bit of a decrease in the Act 51 monies you might receive in the next year or two as well, so.
Okay, Ryan, I got a couple questions for you, please.
Sure.
Number one, the Paisley rating The red on the map is the 1-2 fails. When I look at the list of capital improvement plan, can you ballpark me how many of those or what percentage are red or number 1-2 failed roads?
And the whole system, how, the percent of 1 and 2s?
Of what we're going to potentially do in the
Potentially
6-year
do-
plan?
Majority of them are 1s and 2s. Percentage-wise,
I think it's a column.
I couldn't tell you, but it's definitely more than 50% of the streets.
Because I look at that list and I look at Highland Drive and it's rated poor 1-2 and it's not on the list anywhere.
Yeah, I know there's several other 1s and 2s on that list that we did not include in the capital improvement plan just because there's so many
Yeah.
streets, yes.
And I ask because I get a lot of feedback from people that live with it. That's a heavily
Sure.
trafficked road and
Sure.
it is in disrepair. I'm just I look
Sure.
and I'm like, I don't see it.
And we've gone through several different iterations with the streets. I know between city administration and myself, gone through several different iterations as far as what streets to include in the capital improvement plan. Again, it's not set in stone. If there's certain streets that, that might be higher priority for the city, we definitely
And
want to
again,
include
I
those.
understand the flexibility that if we can say this is the
Right.
plan, but in a year from now, we can go, that road that was down there, it's got to be moved up because
Right.
whatever happened.
Yeah, it can be updated annually. It can be updated any time, but I would suggest updating it
So our
annually.
Act 51 funding is about $300,000.
Correct,
And we're including that when we do our estimated costs over here to pay.
correct.
But didn't you say that Act 51 is used for plowing and salting?
That, yes.
So how much gets eaten up by that?
It depends on.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it depends on activity for winter, for sure.
Right.
Last year I think we underspent our winter maintenance budget by almost 25 grand, I think, across both funds. So that was 25 grand more we could put towards road projects. We get roughly 600,000 more or less from Act 51 total each year. Additionally, we are transferring general fund money each year into our street funds as well. That's another, between all those sources, that's kind of how we get to the 300, then to the 830, so.
So our Act 51 money isn't all in this plan?
No, some of it is used to pay for plowing, road salt alone's like 25 grand a year, to buy 600 tons of salt.
Right. I think that's all I had. Anybody? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
And real quick, Council, I think I was looking at Act 51 earlier today, and to formally submit this to the state, I think we're going to have to draft a resolution and get that in. So I'll look into that more, and I'll bring it back to the next council meeting, should we have to take a resolution. Ryan, you might actually know that.
Yeah, once we finalize the plan, everybody's good with the plan, there is a resolution that needs to be passed before we send it off to the Transportation Asset Management Council for their approval. And then once they approve it, then you can transfer more of your major fund money.
So there's no action required for the review
No.
process?
Not tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move to D, special event permit, St. Clair Little League Opening Day Parade. Chief?
Yeah, St. Clair Little League has requested their annual opening day parade on May 1st, leaving high school and going to the Knights of Columbus. And all the paperwork is in, and I recommend you approve it.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Special events permit, St. Clair Chamber of Commerce Beer and Wine Festival.
I have received a request from the chamber that they want to have a beer and wine festival on June 12th in the plaza, and all their paperwork is in. I recommend you approve that.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? F, special event, St. Clair Art Association Art Fair.
And the Art Association has requested to have their 50th annual art fair at the last weekend of August. All their paperwork is in, and I recommend you approve that.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? G, Whistles on the Water special event application.
And Whistles on the Water have requested for September 25th, and I recommend you approve that.
Motion to approve.
Support that motion.
Questions?
We
All
are
in favor,
slowly,
say aye.
Aye.
we are slowly getting back to normal.
All right, thank you, Chief. Thank you. We'll go to number 10, claims of the council February 18th and February 25th.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, number 11, public questions and comments, limited to 3 minutes for any non-agenda item, and we didn't have anything out there tonight. We'll go to number 12. Mayor and council member comments and announcements. Anybody have anything? I can't think of any, Butch. Anything?
I got nothing.
All right, we're going to number 13. Ask for a closed session to confer with legal counsel for the purpose of discussing pending litigation.
Your Honor, I'll make the motion to approve that.
I'll support it.
The motion is made, supported. Call the roll.
Folds,
Yes.
Kinsfater,
Yes.
Kleeman,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
McCartney.
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes.
carried, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Folks, we're going to have a closed session in here because that room is very small and tight-quartered. I'll have to ask you up to the lobby. We will come up after the closed session. If anybody's up there, we'll bring you back down. If we have any kind of action, we'll take it at that point. Thank you very much. Be safe going home. Take care.